The air was choking with smoke, the barn blazing like a bonfire against the dusk sky, when Laura's gleaming silver SUV sat smugly across my tractor path, blocking my only clear shot to save my livestock. She wasn't just parked, unfolded a lawn chair, propped herself up like a queen at a parade, and cranked her Bluetooth speaker to drown out the chaos with some jazzy nonsense. My animals were screaming, flames clawing the barn's wooden beams, and there she was, sipping iced tea, while VYing lazily as if my world wasn't burning. That was the moment I knew Laura didn't just want control, she wanted a fight, and I was ready to give her one she'd never forget. My boots pounded the gravel as I shouted for her to move. She didn't even blink, just flicked her wrist in a dismissive gesture. The fire roared louder, my cows bellowing in panic, and I had seconds to decide, wait for her to budge, which she wouldn't, or risk the Old North Trail, a rocky mess that could snap my tractor's axle. Cursing under my breath, I jumped into the cab, slammed the gearshift, and tore toward the back route. The path was a nightmare. Every rut jolted the trailer like a hammer, branches scraping the sides, the whole rig threatening to tip. By the time I reached the barn, the fire had chewed through the northeast corner. I fought it with every hose and bucket I had, SAVYing what I could, but the damage was done, a charred wall, 2 days' worth of feed ruined, and my patience burned to ash. When I circled back, Laura was still there, legs crossed, smirking like she'd done me a favor. I didn't yell. I didn't charge at her. I just stared, my mind already spinning a plan. She'd been poking at me for months, ever since the HOA tried to redraw their fancy map to claim a sliver of my land for neighborhood aesthetics. I'd shut that down fast. Me deed, clear as day since 1947, proved the tractor path cutting past her backyard was mine. But Laura didn't care about deeds. She believed in her own rules, scribbled on HOA letterhead, enforced with passive-aggressive notes taped to my fence, complaints about my rooster's crow, even a rant about my barn's ugly, red paint. I'd ignored it all. But blocking my path while my barn burned? That was war, and I wasn't fighting with words. That evening, as the sun bled crimson over the ridge, I sat on my porch, the barn still smoldering faintly, and cracked open a root beer. Laura had moved here a year ago, swapping a city condo for her idea of rural charm, but instead of embracing the land, she tried to tame it like a suburban lawn. She hated the smell of manure, the dust from my chickens, the way we let the stars light our nights. When we didn't bend to her VY shown, she retaliated: fake citations, petty fines, and now this stunt. I leaned back, the stars piercing the haze, and the idea hit me, a wall, not of bricks or curses, but hay. A towering, golden fortress around her SUV, so tight she'd need a crane to escape. I grinned, picturing her flailing, yelling into her phone, trapped by her own arrogance. This wasn't just revenge, it was a lesson. She'd endangered my animals, my home. If I didn't push back, she'd keep coming. But I'd do it my way, legal, quiet, and impossible to ignore. I barely slept, my mind racing with flames, her empty stare, and the hay wall rising bale by bale. At dawn, I pulled out my deed, snapped a photo of the page marking the path as private, and made a list: supplies, cameras, witnesses. Laura thought she'd won, that I'd stomp and shout and fold like her HOA minions. She was wrong. I played by the land's rules, and the land always remembered its owner. The next morning, a crisp breeze rattled the leaves as I stepped onto the porch, coffee in one hand, deed in the other. Laura's tire marks scarred the dirt, a smug reminder of her stunt. She hadn't shown her face since the fire, probably plotting her next move, but I wasn't waiting. At the feed store, I ordered 3 dozen hay bales, tight and square. The old clerk raised an eyebrow, so I said it was for a fall display. Not a lie, technically. The bales would arrive by dusk, and I had space in the barn to keep them dry. Next, I hit the county office, got a certified copy of the 1947 plat, and circled the path in red ink. If Laura tried to claim it again, I'd bury her in proof before I buried her car in hay. At the diner, whispers spread. Laura had already complained to the HOA about my reckless tractor driving, while viewing a blurry camera screenshot as Evie Denke. I laughed. She had no idea I'd been building a case. Trail cams now perched on my gate, an oak tree, and the feed bin, their feeds pinging my phone with every twig's twitch. The bales arrived at sunset, stacked like golden bricks. I waved off the driver and spent the evening rearranging the barn, each bale a piece of my plan, each straw a thread in a story Laura wouldn't forget. I spent the next day collecting stories from neighbors she'd bullied: the Thompsons, fined for a hand-painted mailbox; the Wilsons, scolded for their kids' sidewalk chalk; the Harrisons, cited for distressing garden gnomes. They handed over letters, photos, fake fines, grateful someone was listening. Nobody liked her, they'd just been too worn down to fight. I wasn't. On day 3, I dug a post hole by the path and bolted up a sign. Private road. Do not block. It wouldn't stop her, but it was a legal marker. That evening, as twilight settled, Laura's SUV rolled up. She paused, glaring at the sign, then stepped out, grabbed a hacksaw from her bag, and started cutting the post. I laughed from the porch, unseen. She gave up, kicked the post, and sped off. My phone buzzed, the cams caught it all: her face, her saw, her tantrum. I saved the clip to 3 drives. My case was ironclad. 3 days later, the trap sprang. Nursing a sore shoulder from stacking bales, I watched the cam feed when Laura's SUV crept back, parking dead across the path. She stepped out in yoga gear, unfolded her chair, and sat scrolling her phone, sipping from a mug. I gave her 20 minutes to move. She didn't. I fired up the tractor, its growl echoing as I hauled a trailer of bales around the barn, out of sight. She didn't notice, too glued to her screen. I unloaded slowly, stacking bales along the SUV's sides, then the rear, Leah vying the front open briefly. Still, she sat. When the walls hit hood height, I snapped a photo from the cam's angle. Her car looked swallowed by a straw fortress. As I closed the front, her shadow jolted upright. Her voice sliced the air. "What the hell are you doing?" I didn't answer, just kept stacking. She tried squeezing through, but the bales were too tight. She stormed up, face crimson, screaming about harassment, property damage, illegality. I pointed to her tires on my path, then to the laminated sign she tried to saw. Her mouth flapped, speechless. I added flair: 2 scarecrows sewn with a fake ticket, one in a hard hat flanking the wall, and a note pinned to a bale. "Next time, park like a neighbor." Laura spun, filming, narrating like a tabloid reporter. "He trapped my car. He's insane." She kicked the bales, but they held firm, wind-resistant and solid. She couldn't move them, couldn't drive out, the gap was too narrow, risking scratches to her precious paint. The deputy arrived, as I'd expected. I'd already shared the fire incident, VY Deos, and Deed with him, an old friend. He stepped out, eyed me, then faced Laura. She unleashed a tirade, while VYing her phone. He listened, then asked, "Is your vehicle on his land?" She stammered, tried to spin it as a community road. He pointed to my posted deed. "No, ma'am. Private easement. You've been warned." Her voice cracked, whining about being caged. "Like an animal." He turned to me. "Touch the vehicle?" "No, sir. Just hay, nothing leaning." He nodded, handed her a citation for trespass and obstructing emergency access. Her face drained white. She stomped back to her chair, fuming silently. The deputy shrugged, drove off, and I stood there, the wind rustling the straw, the path mine again. By dusk, the story exploded. A kid's drone captured aerial shots of Laura's SUV entombed in hay, shared online with captions like, "Farm Justice." By morning, thousands had seen it, cars slowed by my fence, some Leah vying chairs to gawk. Laura sat in her SUV, windows up, pride trapping her as much as the bales. The HOA called an emergency meeting, not for the hay, but because the spotlight burned too bright. Leaked emails revealed Laura's abuses using HOA funds for her flowers, her fence, her ego. Neighbors filed signed complaints, citing her fake fines for holiday lights, wind chimes, anything she disliked. At the meeting, Laura tried to spin the hay wall as harassment, but the crowd wasn't hers anymore. Someone shouted about the fire she ignored, another demanded answers for her spending. She crumbled, dropped her clipboard, and fled. The board ousted her unanimously, her reign shattered. I dismantled the wall, bale by bale, Leah VYing her SUV untouched. She drove off without a glance, gravel spitting under her tires. Peace settled in. Neighbors brought cookies, eggs, thanks a quiet nod to standing up. The Thompsons proposed a fall festival on my land, and I agreed, not for fanfare, but because the path felt open again, in every sense. We called it the Harvest Hay, a nod to the wall. Kids ran through hay mazes, a band played, and the community exhaled years of tension. Laura stayed away, her influence gone, her walks confined to the neighborhood's quiet edges. A week later, an envelope appeared at my gate. Her sharp handwriting admitted she'd gotten carried away, CRAVYing importance in a place she never fit. Not quite an apology, but I didn't need it. I had my road, my peace. Later, Laura stopped by, no clipboard, just a box of cookies. I didn't thank you for not scratching the car, she said. I nodded, took the box. She paused. I didn't get how much the land matters to folks like you. I'll keep my side clear. She drove off, and I left the cookies unopened, their gesture enough. I added a plaque below my sign. Patience builds stronger walls than anger. It wasn't just for her, it was for me. A reporter called, wanting a story. I stayed anonymous, just a farmer with a tractor and a point. The headline read, Farmer's Hay Wall Stops Neighborhood Tyrant. Simple, true, and it made people smile. Letters came, some from strangers, thanking me for standing firm. The hay was gone, but its shadow lingered not as revenge, but as proof that quiet resolve could outshine the loudest tantrums. The land had spoken, and I'd let it.